Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Front Row Conversation. This evening, today, I have someone really special, someone that has been a very dear friend, dare I say, even one of my closest / best friends for the past few years. Someone that I've really looked up to just in terms of her journey, things that she's passionate about, travel, chai, plants, babies, what else? Road trips, so many things, and very few times have I encountered someone that I'm so similar to, and every time we find something that we're similar to, we'd be like, oh my god, you and me, same, so I love just spending time with her and talking to her, and she's been someone that's super inspirational in her own ways, and I'm looking forward to having this conversation with her, even though I have no idea what we're going to talk about. So
fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Manuela.
Woo! Thank you.
Now that that's out of the way, thank you so much for being here, Manny. I know it's been a long day for you, and it wasn't easy, but thank you so much for making time.
I would never miss it.
Thanks. Have you ever done something like this before?
Nope.
Yeah, this is not a podcast. This is a talk show.
Still a first.
Nice. How would you introduce yourself?
It's extremely hard now because I'm in a completely different season.
Yeah.
So now I think I'd first say I'm a mum. I feel it defines everything I do now in life. And I sometimes forget who I was before that. But I still do like everything that you mentioned.
Yeah.
And that hasn't changed.
Nice. Were there anything else that you would have added or subtracted?
No. I think if I had to do top 5, you covered all of it.
The top 5.
And I'm not surprised.
Nice.
It'd be the same.
Probably. Except maybe coffee or chai.
Correct. Shut up.
Just me, but yeah. Awesome. Do you want to just tell our audience what you do for a living? What do you do for work? What do you... Yeah.
Cool. So I did my bachelor's and master's in biomedical sciences and molecular biology. So I am what you called a non-lab scientist.
Yeah.
Even though that doesn't make sense.
That's the one thing I forgot to mention. I forgot to introduce you as a scientist.
No, but everybody thinks of scientist as somebody who puts things in a beaker and things blast. But that's not what I do. I actually work specifically on cancer samples and I interpret them so that we can suggest the right therapy for patients. So
Can I ask why you ever chose this?
Yeah, so I think growing up, I was really sure I wanted to be a doctor.
Right.
All my life until the time came, like I got into CMC and my dream was coming true, and my dad then got an opportunity to move to London.
Right.
And he gave me one of these reality checks where he said he would not go if I wasn't coming. And so I was placed in this space where I had to choose between everything I dreamt of all my life and actually having to cause dad not to go. So I remember that moment. I sort of took a step back and I told myself, if I do move to London and if I do get a scholarship in one of the 3 colleges that I do apply to, because otherwise we couldn't afford it at that point, I would then take it as a sign from God that he wants me there.
Right.
And if not, I told my dad that I'd come back and do medicine at CMC. So that's where I stood. And that was the pivotal point in my life where I did get a scholarship in what I considered nearest to being a doctor. And then I pursued that. I was always my grandmother passed away from breast cancer.
Right.
And so I was very sure that I wanted to be in the oncology space, whether it was with patients directly or working like I do behind the scenes.
Nice. That's crazy.
You didn't know that, did you?
I did not know that.
Great.
Isn't that amazing? That we've been friends for 10 years now. We've been really close for the past 5 years. Yeah, and I've never asked you this question.
Yes.
And I think that's what I love about this.
Correct.
These moments like this. And now that it's documented, like I've also learned something new,
And I've never actually shared that in a while. So I'm really happy you asked me that.
Nice.
Yeah.
So cool, man. See? Good
start. Now what?
Yeah. Let's start from the beginning. I know that you have such a tremendous bond with your family. I don't think I've met families that are have such a tight bond like you guys do. And I'll put my phone on silent first. But I just want to talk me through what growing up was like in the Solomon household, because I want the world to hear it.
Okay. So again, I can actually remember seasons of my life because growing up, I think we were always the family that did everything together, not necessarily out of choice. So dad was always a pastor. He was invited to 100 prayer meetings, and his rule was that people needed to know that he had a family everywhere he went. So even if he was invited to something alone, we sort of had to always go with him. So I think that was good training to sort of like naturally want to do everything together eventually. So I think that was initially forced upon us, and then later on became something that we actually enjoyed. So I think that was not by choice, but sort of became a great thing later. And my mom worked in the travel industry. So I remember there was one point, this was probably when I was 13. So till I was 13, we didn't travel at all. My family does not do road trips at all. So we never traveled until I was about 13. And my mom got her first free ticket. And the free ticket was to Switzerland. So we were actually the kind that did Singapore through Switzerland.
Okay.
So we did Bangalore, Zurich, Singapore. Okay. Bangalore, Zurich, Malaysia. Everything had to be via Switzerland because mom worked for Swissair.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's how our travel actually begun. Till then, we didn't know we liked it in the first place. So we did one per year because she got one free ticket a year. Yeah. And it was on these like jump seats. It's like if nobody got on, you would get on. Okay. So we'd be just sitting there praying, saying, please, please, please make us on this flight and let's go through and whatnot. So I think that's how it started. And eventually, I began to really enjoy traveling with my family. I felt most safe in terms of my clothing as well. I felt like there were people that did not judge me. And it just became this thing that we did together, just exploring a new place. So the rule was we never repeated a place. We'd always go to a new place. We would do everything that worked for all of us, which usually involved a lot of animals and safaris, except for my mom who had no interest, but she sort of played along. But eventually that's sort of how the Solomon family got into like traveling, got into seeing new countries and where we were today.
It's almost a problem now, isn't it?
It's actually a problem after I've got married.
Oh, yeah?
Because he hasn't seen the same countries I have. And so now I have to do repeats.
So you have to do repeats. So they're breaking some rules, are we?
For love.
Yeah. Awesome, man. So cool. I actually didn't know that as well. So I think
I'm only telling you things I think you don't know.
Yeah, but you don't have to.
That's because you know everything else.
Yeah. Amazing, man. And we grew up in the same decade in two different schools, but the same like school in the boys version and the girls version. Yeah. And like I'm such a proud Cottonian. I tell everybody about it. I know you are too. So how was Cottons for you from the years that you were there?
The very best. To such an extent, I think I struggled to enjoy everything after that to the same extent. Yeah. Like I went through college and I went, but nothing like school. Yeah. You know, I think school is really where I found myself in so many ways. Yeah. And because, so also you know that I've never been in a single city for more than 6 years. So when I moved to Bangalore in the 8th grade and then joined Cottons, I actually wasn't the person that I was when I finished school. And that's because it gave me space to find the sport I liked, found leadership qualities in me. I felt like I was also surrounded by the right people that encouraged me, saw good in me, and then just gave me the space to expand. Yeah. And I think I've never found that kind of space elsewhere.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And like, if you had to look back now, what would be your favorite or your most memorable moment or memory from when you were in school as well as from in your first maybe 10 to 12, 13 years of your life?
First 10, 13 years of my life.
Yeah, just like maybe it's at home or elsewhere, but in that season of like initial childhood, like what's your first memory that comes back to you when I ask you that question?
Very strangely, basketball.
Nice.
I felt like that was a season of my life where that was all I thought about. I bunked a lot of classes to be on the court, and that's where you would find me. Yeah. I think it inspired the way I dressed. I was a very typical tomboy during that season of my life, and it all boiled down to the fact that I loved basketball, loved Kobe Bryant. It was just what I sort of wanted to look like, wanted to dress like.
You want to look like Kobe Bryant?
Like in those jerseys and just all these fancy basketball clothes at one point in time. But I think that would be the first, because I also didn't have it post 13. So I think that's why it also marks that season of my life. I stopped playing after school and I never resumed. So I think that was surprisingly a season memory. Yeah.
Interesting. I just want to go back to the first question, which is like, what do you do? You're not only a scientist. You also do other things.
Like?
You
like
tell
being
me.
like being a pastor, you mean?
Yeah, maybe
Okay.
maybe like being a pastor, you're
and being a mom and being like 100 other things.
But like career-wise and like.
I don't know if I'd call it a career because I don't consider it a job.
Nice.
As
much
much as it sounds like it is, it's not.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I'm doing it every Sunday. And so it's definitely part of my week. It's consistent. It's something I have to show up. If I don't, there is somebody else that needs to fill in for me. So in that way, yes, it's definitely something that I do consider very part of who I am currently in the season. So I definitely say Monday to Friday work and Saturday, Sunday would be all about church and being a pastor currently.
So Monday to Friday you're a scientist, over the weekend you're a pastor.
Yes.
That's an interesting balance. Did you ever think that would ever happen?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah. So I actually always knew.
Oh.
Even when I wanted to pursue my master's in King's College, I remember telling my parents would testify to this. And I worked really hard to do well in life so that tomorrow, if I chose to go into what is considered full-time ministry, or become a full-time pastor, or just be all about God at any season of my life and not work, it would never be because I didn't make it in my career. It would be because I chose to. So, and I think that drove me to do exceptionally well at work and during my master's, during my bachelor's. I wanted to be established and yet choose God, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's powerful to do that. But it's amazing to see that maybe like this once was something that you always chose or wanted to choose or wanted.
Now, I don't know if it would look the way it looks right now. Like, I didn't know if I'd be a teen pastor, a youth pastor. Like, I didn't know what it would look like. But I always knew no matter what I pursued, it had to involve God.
Yeah.
I couldn't do anything outside of that, even eventually as a job.
But could you ever see yourself not doing something like
not godlike
9 to 5? No, not godlike, but like not like a Monday to Friday where you're at like an office or something like that, but be full time into ministry doing.
Yeah, no. So I'm also a firm believer that I have a lot in me that I would like to bring to people that don't necessarily come to church.
Right.
So I've always witnessed myself as somebody who has one foot in the secular world doing a secular job and one foot in the church doing what I can
So
there.
that would be your ideal.
100%.
Yeah.
I feel like there are opportunities where I have thought and been given an opportunity to maybe go full time. And I know that in my heart, I would like it to always be this way.
This way.
Yeah.
Nice.
I feel it just gives me more people to interact with at any given time.
To no shock, I'm the same.
Yes,
but,
of course.
But yeah, I don't think I can. It'll be tough to do a full-time ministry or a full-time, corporate or worldly job.
I also enjoy what I'm doing. So it's not because I'm saying what I'm saying in terms of reaching out to people. That's not what I mean. I actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
I enjoy being able to do many things.
Yeah.
And eventually it all points to God for me. So it's not a challenge to my idea at any point.
Fair. And like if there's anything that you would have to would like to tweak right now, maybe even if it takes time, like 5 or 10 years, like how would you tweak it how would you at least tweak it in terms of like if you had control over it, like what would you change?
Such an interesting question. I actually can't think of anything right now.
Yeah.
Solely because I didn't think I'd be where I was and am right now.
Yeah.
Even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think I would even have the opportunity to be a pastor or have the opportunity to have a job that gives me the flexibility it gives me.
Yeah.
So I don't think I would have dreamt of something better right now. I feel like God has given me everything that sort of exceeded the expectations I had laid before me. So I don't know what I'd tweak. I'm 100% sure he'll beat it anyway.
That's true.
So I'm just not going to say anything.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would tweak is probably do a 4-day work week and a 3-day weekend. It's very standardized, but I don't know.
That's the dream.
That's a dream, isn't it? It'll be great. Yeah.
I'm still not sure if I do 3-day weekend or Wednesday break.
Oh, you're
I
that
can't
in between,
decide.
Huh? Nice. And let's just talk about like London. After being in India for so many years, you went to London.
Yeah.
How old were you then? 17, 18?
I was 16.
16.
When I moved. So I finished 12th very
12th,
early. So I was 16 when I finished 12th and then moved.
Yeah. And
which is also incredible because I could not have moved with my dad if I wasn't below 18. So even the way I just think about how things orchestrated, it was just
why could
beyond.
Could you have not moved?
Because you can't move as a dependent on his
right.
visa if you are over 18. You're considered an adult and you need your own visa. And then I don't know if I do what I did back then. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I love just looking back and seeing these small moments of God's hand in everything. It's
exactly.
Crazy. But
God's thought, which is far better than what I could have planned. For me, it's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever complain? Did you ever complain that you were too young for your batch or whatever like that? Like, did you ever feel out of place?
No. I'm complaining I'm too old for everybody that's around me currently.
Now, but like back then.
Actually, yeah. I mean, everybody knew me as the youngest person at work, the youngest person everywhere. So I think that was not fun.
Yeah.
I'd get called out quite a bit. But somewhere down the line, it was okay. I didn't like the stage of me being 17 when everyone else was 18 because they were legal and I wasn't to be able to go to a lot of pubs or places that I couldn't enter just because I wasn't 18 yet.
Nice.
So
tell me about the wild London Manny.
Yeah, I think I was really finding myself there.
Yeah.
And I'm nothing like what I was actually in those years. The few people that know me laugh at how I've sort of flipped a coin in so many ways. Yeah, I think...
for the better also.
For the better, 100%. I feel so much more grounded, mature, stable in so many ways. I think I was... the biggest fear and issue that I could have with a personality like mine is pleasing people, and I feel those years of my life were completely governed by that. I don't know who I was. I was just different versions to different people. And so when I look back, I just don't see any stability in who I was.
That's scary.
Yeah, that is scary. So now I feel like I know who I am, what I like, what I don't like, what's my personality and what's not. Back then, I was just being the perfect version of what I thought worked for everybody. Yeah, so I think I was 16 when I moved, and I moved with my family. So if you think about it, not much changed. But what happened is I started working.
While you were studying?
While I was studying. So throughout my bachelor's degree, I was also working. So I was going to college Monday. Sorry?
What were you doing?
I was working for a retail store, one of these massive retail stores called John Lewis. And I worked in the customer service department. And it was really nice. Like, communication is, I think, what I used to thrive on back in the day. And that worked really well in terms of my job. I was like best salesperson for like 3 years straight. And I think I loved that season of my life because it's the first time I felt like I was doing something and earning for it. I felt like I was getting applause for skill sets that I possessed, which sort of like it's a new life altogether. Like it feels like you're grown up suddenly. And I don't think I was prepared for that. I suddenly had access to money, to a set of people that were actually working full time. So I was working part time and I was hanging out with people that were doing this full time. They were people who were working in a different season of life. I mean, their lives looked so different from mine and I was trying to fit in. And so I think I grew up too fast.
Interesting.
I had to just settle into their life and thought that was cool. And I just was trying so hard to grow up, skip anything that looked like a 16-year-old. So that season, I didn't actually behave or live like a 16-year-old. And I think that was the danger for me. Just trying so hard to fit into a sudden new lifestyle, a new country, a new sense of dressing, a new sense of belonging, new set of friends. I had to like start from scratch. I had a set of friends and suddenly it was just completely robbed of me. And I had to start from the beginning, not know who's my type, who's not my type. They're also different from me. So I think that was hard. And I was just in such a people-pleasing stage that I was all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny that I think even though I kind of know portions or parts of the story. Like, I don't think I've ever heard the way you've worded it just now. But I think so much of my teenage and like that season of life was spent with a lot of people who were much older to me also. And
Yeah.
I didn't, like, I always wanted to be like them.
Exactly.
So I didn't want to do the same uncool things that my friends were doing, because I already had people that I could hang out with that were cooler and were doing funner things. But then now when I look back, I'm just like, man, I just wish I stayed the
was
course.
a child when I was a child, you know.
And that's so funny how life is so like weird that way, the way it's designed and the way we process and we think. We always want to grow up faster until a certain age, and then we just want to slow down.
Yeah.
And in both situations, we don't win. We just have to
100%, exactly.
Just be content at where we're at. And so interesting. See, so much we're learning in 21 minutes. And post that, you came back to India.
Yeah. Again, I had the same challenge even there, because I was cracking up very recently, because Facebook gives you this on this day reminder. Memories. And so many times it shows up to my first year of London. And all I said was, I miss home, I miss Bangalore, I miss my friends.
While
I don't fit
London?
here. Yeah. The entire first year. I want to go back. I want home. I want home. I don't have friends here. I don't like it here. That was my entire first year. And then when I finally left, I had this huge essay on Facebook about how London is home. And that I found my place and I found my people and I don't want to leave, and I've dreamt of a future there. And I think leaving London was very hard, because I did that out of choice. I did that out of what I felt was right in that season, not what I wanted.
Why did you leave?
So at that point, I had heard that my granddad was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and I didn't know how long I had. And I just felt like I wanted to be back. That was also the season where I applied for my PhD to move to New Zealand. So I think like I had so many dreams in that place. I wanted to stay in London. I wanted to settle down there. And then I wanted to do my PhD and then come back to London. India was not on my map at all. I had no desires to return. And in fact, at that point, my parents were in London. My sister, in Germany. My sister was also in Germany. So there was no one in India to return to, family-wise, except my grandparents. But there was something in me that just felt like I didn't want to miss out on time with him. So I moved back to Hyderabad at that point. Had to look for a job. I finished from one of like the top 10 colleges in the world, and I thought finding a job would be easy. And I had to wait, and I had to ask people. I had to ask them to refer me. Like, merit wasn't good enough being back home. And that was hard for me. I felt like it was a real check. It was a slap on the face. It was really humbling that I had to take a different process completely out of merit.
Yeah.
And that was hard. That was a really hard season for me to wait. Yeah. And not want to be back. So, it felt like I was just paying a really high price to be back home.
Crazy.
All my friends from school moved on.
Yeah.
By then, they had moved different places.
Right.
I felt like I didn't know anybody back home. Started a new church. Started coming.
In Hyderabad?
No, even to Bangalore. Okay. Coming to APC. Just doing everything that I did. Everything was new. I felt like I was starting on a new slate.
So this was 2012?
2012 is when I came back after my master's.
Nice. And so your family wasn't back?
Wasn't back. They moved back because of me. So I'd also hear about that, because my dad was like, I came back because of you. I didn't want to come back. I came back because we should be together.
Right.
So I think that was also challenging.
When did they come back?
2013.
Oh, just a year later.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And then, so is that when you got this scientist job? Or did
yes. Which again was also such a blessing, because that was the only job that I got in based on merit. It was crazy, because every other interview I took was because some auntie had referred me and some uncle had referred me. And it was like, there were so many moments of my life that I was bawling my eyes out because I hadn't made it through the interview. And I heard a comment like, oh, I gave you that shot and you didn't take it, or I gave you that shot and you were there because of me, or you wouldn't have made it if not for my push, or I had to hear so much of that. And I remember bawling my eyes out saying, God, I have worked really hard. I have studied in one of the best colleges, and here I am trying my best to obey your little promptings in my heart. I am where I think you want me to be, and yet it's so hard. And I remember I applied casually, putting my CV on their website, the current job that I have. There were job openings, and I literally put my CV up on the website. And they called me back. Just, like arrows everywhere, not knowing where it's going to hit. And they called me back, and it turns out that was one of the best decisions I ever made.
And you've been super faithful at this job, and you've been one of those weird, for the lack of a better word, weird people in our generation that has not changed a job in 10 years.
True.
Has it been 10 years?
At this, yeah.
10? It's the 10th
10 years of working, but at this place,
in between, you stopped, yeah.
Just for 2 years, though.
But since you started, it's been 10 years.
Yes.
How do you do it?
And at this current job, actually, you're right. It's been 10. I just finished 5 in this stint and 3 in the first. So 8 at this company.
Yeah.
And 10 in total, yeah.
How do you do it? Like, I don't understand that. Like, I really don't. I feel like everyone has kept moving. Everyone has like done different things, tried different things. I don't think that I find many people in today's generation that stick for a long term in any company. And is there a reason that you do that?
Pros and cons of this entire thing. So the bad part of this is also because I'm not a risk taker. I am somebody that is very afraid of change as a personality. So I think if you sort of push me off a slide, I'm extremely good at staying afloat. So it's not that I won't thrive or survive.
Yeah.
It's just I'm really somebody who's afraid of taking the step. If you push me, it's fine. But me taking that step is extremely hard. And I think a lot of the times I've also stayed because I've been afraid of taking a step out of this little comfort zone of mine. So I think if I get comfortable, I'm really in a good place. I also do really well in a state of comfort. So I think there's good and bad. If I'm in a good place, I'm extremely consistent. I will endure, and I am in for the long run. It's just my personality.
Yeah.
I won't quit. It's not in my nature to actually quit anything at all.
Okay.
That's just my personality. But the flip side of that is I'm also so afraid of change that I don't necessarily take these steps of moving to a new job or a new place.
We don't have to add this next section in, but like, don't you ever desire for better or for more in terms of a professional career point of view?
100%. So I will actually be honest enough to tell you that I am not career driven.
Sure.
Because...
So it doesn't matter?
It does matter. So I need to have purpose in what I'm doing, which I do.
Yeah.
So as long as that's taken care of, I can work. Now, if you rob me of that, I will really struggle. I will really struggle to show up at work. But at any given time, I have always been the sort of person, like you touched upon, what it was like as, growing up with the Solomons and everything. But I can tell you hands down that all the days of my life, from when I can remember, family has been first. I will slay everything, including work, for family. So even in this season, being a mom is so important to me that at any given time, work comes second. So I've always dreamt and desired. The actual goal for me is to have a job that I see purpose in, that gives me time to be able to spend with family.
Yeah.
And I think I have that. And because of that, there is no time in my life, no matter how much you could tempt me with money, that I would be okay to make that change. Just because I have the sweet spot of time with family right now.
Sure.
And I wouldn't trade that.
So good, man. I think...
It keeps me in a great place of being grateful, content.
Yeah.
And it's really nice.
Yeah. I think people really undervalue time.
Yes.
It's so expensive.
Time is money.
Time
right?
is...
Like you're making so much money and you have no time to spend it.
Yeah.
You're saving so much money, and I know you're saying your kids will reap off those benefits, which is selfless. But I'm saying when you do want to enjoy the fruit of your labor, you either don't have the health or the time. And I think I don't want to ever be in that place of regret. So I'm living every moment going, okay, time is the most important thing. Family is not going to be around forever. These are the things that I won't have forever. Money I will. So it just keeps me in this place of like prioritizing what's important.
That's nice. I think it's important just for people to keep telling themselves that, time is actually very, very, very precious.
Yeah.
And I hope people that are listening out there who are chasing money and are struggling with it, like kind of just find some, I think, some peace in their mind about just realizing that, it's time is super, super valuable. It's super expensive. It's priceless even.
True.
Yeah, I've been learning to value that over the recent past, I think. I think chasing money has been it's part of everyone's life, unfortunately.
Exactly. And it's what you're working for.
It's what you're working for as well. But I hate the rat race of I'm making X, you're making Y, and I need to beat you. I need to compare myself to you.
And it's never enough because it's always going to be somebody who is earning more than you. Like, I feel like there are a billion people earning more than me.
Yeah.
But I do not think everybody is enjoying life like the way I am.
Yeah.
And that keeps me in that place consistently. Yeah, like, I feel like I really enjoy life. I like traveling for me is that. I know that I will travel all the days of my life if God allows me to. But what I'm trying to say is in every season, like I have traveled when I am single, I have traveled as a married woman, and I have traveled as a mom. And I've done a lot as these 3 different sections of my life. Yeah. But they have not been the same. And I cannot, even to the best of my ability, try and attempt to replicate any of those seasons in the next. Like I've tried to do as much as I can as a married person, and realized I couldn't. Because when I was single, I could do what I want without having to think of another person. Yeah. And you know what? As a married person, I'm like, okay, what does he want to do? And I'm trying to incorporate that. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. But it's so different.
Yeah.
And traveling as a mom, it's been a completely different thing. Like, there's wonder in everything I do, but there are also really hard days, really good days. There's only so much you can do because everything revolves around now your baby's schedule. Yeah. So there are
things to sacrifice your desires.
Yeah, and there are times that I've looked forward to things that you will have to gracefully let go and just go, okay, it's fine. It's fine if it doesn't happen. Yeah. Which you would have struggled with doing if you were in your single stage, because you could have done it. There was nothing stopping you.
Let's pause there. Yeah. Swiggy man is calling.
Let's go.
We're going to take a quick break. We are back from our short break. As you can see, Manny has some chai now, and she is absolutely elated. So let's get back to talking about, is it okay with that we're talking about your story and your journey?
Yes, I'm really enjoying it. Yeah. Getting a little emotional as well. So if you see or hear anything, it's because of the questions you've been asking me.
I love it. I hope you're okay with me asking questions.
I love it.
And you did mention that you had 2 stints at your company that you've been at now for 10 years. Tell us all the reason why you took a break in between.
Okay. So I actually went to Redding in California.
Yes.
And there's a massive story even behind why I went there. Yeah. It's not what I wanted to do. It's never what I dreamt of. But I'm glad I did. You know, I feel that's why it blows my mind. Like, I am never in a place of confidence with my decisions because I know I don't think things through, but I'm glad I have God that does, you know. So when I was in these 2 years of my life, that wasn't at my current company. Even there I moved because I sort of got acquired. So it's, like I said, I've been so against taking steps of even moving that the time that I was in another company is still through my current company.
Yeah.
So I went there, and I remember there was just one day where I said, okay, God, I'm never going to be as young as I am. At that point, I was 27. And I feel like I was in a great place. Yeah. But I also knew marriage was chasing me because my parents were sort of talking about it. And I knew life was going to change, and it was going to change fast. Whenever it was, whether it was the next 5 years. Yeah. But I knew time in my current season was limited. So I sat my dad down and I told him I want to take a break, and it'll be quick. So I wanted to take 6 months away to go to South Africa and work with special need kids. So I remember having that conversation. My dad said, okay, we spoke to somebody, we found a home that I could live in, and some children that I could get to know and spend time with for 6 months. So that was sort of the plan. Everything was taken care of. I was in correspondence with a home that I wanted to stay with. I went, got my visa stuff, took my yellow fever vaccine. Everything was in order until one particular day when I was at work, and sort of I work on the computer, not in a lab, and therefore I was writing this document, I remember, and I see what I believe was a vision. So in simple terms, what happened is, as I was writing this document, which is 100% scientific at that point, I see a picture of Bethel written in italics. And I personally have never known of the school, never known of what Bethel was, apart from the fact that we sing their songs at church.
Right.
So I knew of Bethel music. But, I didn't know they have a ministry school. I didn't know they had an actual church that you could visit. Like, it wasn't on my mind.
Yeah.
So I saw this little picture, and I didn't know what it meant. So I sort of brushed it off, and I continued typing. And then I saw the picture again. And I always believe when something knocks on my door a second time, I don't like to let it slide just in case it's important. So I try to Google it, and I don't get anywhere because Bethel is such a common word, right? It's so common.
Even in Bangalore.
In Bangalore, like every second church, every second home is called Bethel. So I didn't get anywhere with what that meant.
Sure.
So I got back to writing my document, and it happened a third time.
Oh.
And, it was serious
So
this
just
time.
the word Bethel with in
just
italics.
a
Picture.
of Bethel written in italics.
Yeah.
And I just had no clue what that meant. I saw it on a building.
Okay.
So it was Bethel on a building in italics. And that's all I saw. And so when it happened a third time, what I did is I typed Bethel and I went to the images section to see if I could find what I saw. And I saw a picture of Bethel Church, and it was written in italics on the building.
Why have you never told me this?
I don't know. You've never asked me.
Oh my God, Manny, please. The number of times I've asked you, why do you go to Bethel? How are you going to Bethel?
Yeah,
What's the story?
but
like,
I've told you like how God spoke to me.
Yeah.
But I haven't like sort of expounded on what I saw.
Damn, we should do this more often, man. Expound everything.
So I remember seeing that. I went to the images section and I found this. And obviously at this point, I knew enough people that have also gone there. And so I actually, and at that point, Josh was also already going there. Everything was sorted. And for me, this was actually a challenge. Because at this point, when I turned around and told people that the Lord had told me to go to Bethel, everybody is going to think I'm going there because of Josh. Because at that point, people are already making fun of us.
Josh, your friend.
Josh being my husband at that point, right now, but at that point, my friend.
Your friend.
But people were making fun of us already.
Right.
And so there was this part of me that didn't want to do it. And also, again, felt like I was slaying my dream of going to South Africa. And so I was not pleased about this. And so I was, but if you know me well enough, you know that I'm somebody that if you ask me what I would always want to be known for in my walk with God, it would be obedience. So there's a portion of me that just went, okay, God, I'm going to obey you. But I'm hoping that you're just testing my obedience. You're not actually asking me to go. So I remember that point, I just said, okay, I'm not going to tell a soul, not one person knew that I had even applied, had even got in until the point of visa. Nobody knew. So I remember just opening the website and going, okay, what is this on about? What is this? And then I found this school, and then it was already late. So this is June 3rd.
Okay.
And this is July 3rd,
Okay.
July 3rd, and college sort of starts in August.
Yeah.
So there's, in my head, no way that I could apply, get accepted by the college, get my visa in place, and be ready to go. So I was certain this is not going to happen, but I was just walking as due diligence, obedience. So I open the website, and then I see that there's this admission, that this form that you have to fill, and then I'm looking at the deadline to apply, and it's 3rd July.
Oh.
So I'm looking at this on 3rd July, and I see that the deadline is 3rd July.
Sucks.
And I say, okay, let me sort of apply. Then there's this moment where you have to get references. So now you have to reach out to people and they have to get back to you by 3rd July.
Oh.
So I was certain it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But anyway, reached out to 2 people. They took a day to get back to me almost. And eventually when I submitted the application, it was 4th July. And I was like, bro, it's not happening. But I obeyed.
Yeah.
All tick marks, win-win for everybody. God and I. But what I don't realize is that it's 3rd July in the US.
Dumb.
Yeah. So the application goes through and, the visa comes and then I leave. And that's how Bethel happened. Just from this image that came when I was sitting on my desktop.
Yeah. I've already probably shared a little bit about Bethel here and there. We've already heard Josh speak about it and his journey there as well. So I think if you're a returning audience member, you've already heard that I'm also currently at Bethel. I'm going to do my 2nd year. So how was first year for you? How was BSSM first year for you compared to your entire Christian walk, Christian life? Like, what was different? Like, you went there based off of just obedience, but like, what did you gain from that 1 year?
It was honestly a life-changing year. And I won't just say that was life-changing in terms of my walk with God, but I will tell you it's life-changing in terms of my personality, my heart, my marriage, me as a mom. Everything sort of was radically impacted by that 1 year. So when I went there, so this is an extremely evangelical sort of church. And I come from a relatively more conservative background in terms of the kind of church that I grew up in. Yeah. So for me, a lot of this was really new. Yeah. Just everything that I witnessed there, the kind of passion and zeal that I saw, everything was really new. So a portion of me was very afraid of what was ahead of me. Yeah. But if I were to ask you what that year looked like, for me, I would just describe it as freedom. That was what that year did to me. It just sort of liberated me from performing and striving. So I'm an absolute perfectionist in everything I do. And so if I start something, like I said, I can't quit. Like it's against my inner being to want to quit something. It feels like I've failed and I can't take that. Yeah. And that sort of is translated into everything I do. So despite me talking about, work not being important to me, but if I do start work, I'd like to be good at it. Yeah, for sure. I'd like to be good at everything I do. And that's just inherently how I am. And without me realizing, a lot of that translated into my faith as well. So throughout my life, I was so driven to please God. And that's not a bad thing. But because you're so driven to please God, somewhere down the line, I just sort of made this little rule book of like, do this, don't do this. Do this, and pleases God. Don't do this, it displeases God. Do this, it pleases God. And I was living this like high tension, high stress life of like one wrong move and you could displease God and my heart would break. So it's not ever coming from a bad place. It's coming from a really pure intention of wanting to be this really good daughter to this like father God, So my heart is just wanting to please my father, like I want to please my earthly father. And I had the same issue even with my dad. Even now, what he thinks of me, whether I've made him happy, it really matters to me. One sad look on his face and I would be bawling, even now. And so that year, what it did to me is sort of just rewired my entire brain into realizing that he sort of loved me independently of what I did. And that was so liberating. So liberating. Like I didn't have to be like on pins and needles all the time. And that if I truly sort of know his heart and just speak to him on a day-to-day basis and involve him in the moments of my life, the little moments of my life, if I actually involve him in my life, that pleases him the most. And that was liberating. It wasn't about doing and saying and thinking anymore. It was just about a relationship. And I think that just changed who I was. Like I could do the same thing that I did pre-Bethel, but I would do it so differently just because it's been inside out liberating.
Crazy.
Yeah. And even as a mom, as a wife, I think the person that I would have been pre-Bethel was I had to be the perfect wife. And every moment that I failed, I would have been very harsh on myself. I had to be the perfect mom. Every moment of me being a second late to feed my child would have devastated me.
Eating you up alive.
Yeah, so I think just it did so much for me to even learn grace, to understand that he is in it with you to help you through things.
Yeah.
And that is just great. That's just great to know that no matter what I go through, he's with me, and that's more important than my performance.
Crazy, man.
Yeah.
I think again, when I asked you 2 questions, okay, 2 things. Question number 1 is, you mentioned freedom twice. You mentioned freedom when you went to Bethel. You mentioned freedom when you went to London.
Yeah.
One, how is that? How would you define the 2 differences between that freedom versus this freedom?
So such a great question.
Before you answer that question,
yeah,
this is very BSSM like, but I feel like giving you a prophetic word, and I feel like around about 10 years is between when you experience the 2 different types of freedoms. 16, 17, and then 27 again.
Yeah.
And I feel like at 37, there seems to be like a new freedom that's going to come around.
Wow.
It's been a while since I've given a prophetic word, let alone to you. I just feel like as you were talking, I was just sensing 37 is going to be a year where you experience a new freedom.
Amen.
And it's going to be different. And I hope and pray that it blows your mind away.
I'm not looking forward to any of the birthdays ahead of me because it feels like I'm getting really old.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to 37.
Yeah. Like, just because I'm saying this, or like before, you've always thought about it?
No.
As I'm saying this?
And also, 3 and 7 is an important number for me. Yeah. So 37 is already special, but now I'm looking forward to what he's going to do.
Hopefully we'll have you back in how many ever years' time to hear the story of this. But I know that 37 is going to be liberating, a different kind of freedom for you. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
I just chose to partner with whatever I heard and just share it with you.
Amen.
So go on. Why don't you answer that question?
Yeah, I think I'm really enjoying this conversation solely because the questions that you're asking me are causing me to firstly look back at my life. And that's also causing me to be grateful as to how far I've come and where I am and the place that I'm in and how everything's so beautiful right now.
I'm so glad.
And so it's really nice, but also it's challenging me to realize why I did what I did and why I'm where I'm at, and the whys are sort of like challenging to think about. So I'm grateful for your question. And you're 100% right. Like, freedom was 2 completely different meanings to me in these different seasons. So the first freedom looked like being an adult, this whole idea of child versus adult, where as an adult, you're not asking people for permission anymore. You're not asking your parents for money anymore. You're in this place where you feel you have ownership and you can make decisions for yourself. So if you asked me what freedom looked like, that's the best way for me to articulate it, where I felt like I was earning, I was going to college, I was working by myself 2 places, going by myself with friends, no longer considered a child because you're not in school anymore, you're not in a uniform. I think it's just this whole idea of like you suddenly feel like you're old enough to know what's best for you and make your decisions.
Yeah.
So I think that's what freedom was. Suddenly being in a new place.
Yeah.
It felt like a new slate kind of freedom, but felt like an adult versus child kind of freedom also.
Yeah.
And I think this time, freedom wasn't the freedom to choose to do or be anything you want. So I think in this season, I was actually molded a little more into do's and don'ts. It's very funny. It seems like an oxymoron where you spend your whole life with these like do's and don'ts about what pleases God and doesn't please God. But I felt in those 9 months, I was so burdened by what pleased God, and yet it was my year of freedom. If that makes sense. Yeah. Like, I was in this place where I was actually striving really hard to live this life, but not from a place of I have to do this, but from a place of I want to do this. And so I had in my heart the freedom to choose to do, think, say what I want. And that freedom was independent of how God loved me. And so it's something I can't even explain in words. Like, it was just being liberated from performance and striving and trying hard to please God, and just knowing you already are and that you have the freedom to live.
Yeah.
And I think that's incredible. It's changed everything. Like even now when I travel, like I am just oozing with gratitude.
Yeah.
It's just so different from before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how like Bethel does it so well in terms
Yes.
of not performing?
Yeah.
Like, why do you think we are, okay, let's just say we, like, are struggling with that performance? Like, what is your opinion on it?
Yeah, I think it just stems from the fact that when we look at God, we're somehow not able to understand God because in our head he's not human, and therefore we try and fit him into the most human idea of what he is, which is usually your parents. And somehow it boils down to you and your parents. Now, I have a great relationship with my parents. So I remember in Bethel, I was probably one of the few people that did not struggle to see God as Father God. Like when they said God is like your father, it wasn't hard for me because I adore my father. I adore my mother. Like they are great examples. Like I could not have thought of a better set of parents for me personally. They're not the best, but they are the best for me. And you know, so just the idea of feeling secure and free around them and therefore around God was not a challenge.
Yeah.
But I think, like in my case, like I was talking about this whole idea of wanting to please them, because I love them so much, I'm so bent upon pleasing them in everything I do. Like my whole dream would be if somebody went to my dad and said, "Man, what a daughter you have." That was my dream.
I'm sure that's happened.
Yeah, it has. But nothing sort of like made me happier
fair.
than people saying that. And the days that somebody said, "Your daughter did this," or, you know, "How could you have let her do this?" Or, you know, she didn't show up for this. You should have said something. I mean, all these like correcting kind of statements that have been told, I have been wrecked because my dad had to hear that on my account. And I think this translated even to my walk with God. So I think it's as simple as that. You don't understand God. You sometimes can't see him or touch him or feel him. And therefore you are like, okay, what can I best try to explain him as in like my mortal words? And that just looks like fitting him into what your idea of parents are like. So I think that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because our imagination is limited, especially in seasons, right? Especially at 16, this is what I thought my parents were.
Exactly.
At 27, this is what I thought my parents were. And we won't, I think even they don't know. I feel like sometimes, I think I've learned that my parents also are doing parenting for the very first time.
Exactly.
They've never parented a 30-year-old man, right? And so they don't know how to deal with me at 25.
Yeah.
They also so I think that grace is also something that I've learned over the past
absolutely
couple of years at least. And so that's been liberating in its
and
own
also
self.
they're doing their best.
Yeah.
It's just that
I like to think so at least.
and the problem with us is our idea of good and bad is so relative. It's all based out of comparison. So when you're in school,
True.
if your friend's dad is doing this, your dad is lacking.
Yeah.
In some way. It's not that he is, but you think he is because he's just doing it differently, or he's sort of like not doing something that your friend's dad is doing. And I think that whole idea of not being able to just look at your parents just in the eye of your parents alone is the biggest challenge. That they are good and bad depending on the people on your left and your right and stories that you've heard. And I think that's honestly the biggest challenge, because they're actually great parents. It's just that you are determining their goodness and badness and whatnotness just based on stories that you're hearing from your friends.
So true.
And we never say that about parents that fail, like to do what your parents are doing.
Yeah.
You only say that about parents that are doing something your parents are not doing.
Yeah.
Like it's always just one way. That's when you know we're messing up.
That's true. But I don't think we realize that in the moment as kids. I think it takes time, it takes maturing to value that, right?
Absolutely.
That's super important. My next question to you would, like, just going back to the Bethel story, Bethel journey, is what was the first miracle you saw there that blew your mind? And what was probably your favorite miracle that took place over your 9 months?
Yeah, so I think I like that my favorite and
of course
first miracle is very unassuming.
Oh, very unassuming. I thought it would be the same, sorry. But
it is
go
the
ahead.
same also.
Oh, shucks, Manny. I was like, what a classic Manuela answer.
It is. And I like that it is because it's not what I would have ever imagined. Like when somebody says big miracles, you're always thinking like, a cancer disappearing or, like something dramatic.
Yeah.
But the first miracle I saw was actually legs growing. And it was, firstly, I didn't even know that was a problem, which is why I like that it was my first and favorite. It's that God cares about the little things that you don't even realize are actual problems in your life. So this person came and all that they complained about was that they were having a backache. Severe backache. Now, who doesn't have a backache? I have a backache all the time. You're not even thinking that's a big deal. And now if somebody told me that they were healed of a backache, I'd just be like, yeah, it's the same as being healed of a headache. And, it's not a big deal. But, this person that was praying for the student at that point said, oh, can I just measure your legs and see that they're the same length? I was like, what? I wouldn't have even thought of that. So they measured, his legs, and they realized that they were a couple of centimeters short of each other, and they were uneven, and that was the reason he had a backache. And he said, okay, well, here you go. This is the actual reason. So it's not that you have a backache, it's that, your legs are not the same length. And so he said, okay, we're just going to believe and we're going to pray that your legs grow and become the same length. Now, the fact that it was measured in front of me, which means there's also a metric to measure when it grows. And so we just prayed. And yeah, I can feel and see like a change, but I don't know if I'm hallucinating, because how do you know? How do you know legs growing? It's so minor. It's just a couple of centimeters. You can't really necessarily see it.
Yeah.
But post measuring it, we were astounded. And God doesn't make any mistakes. It was to the dot, equal to the dot. And so I love that this was the first miracle I saw, and it's also my favorite because, like I said, it's unassuming. He got healed of a backache, but it was so much more than that.
Yeah.
It was so much more than that.
And probably, what was a miracle that you experienced that where you were involved, where you partook?
Okay, so you and I both went to Guatemala.
Yeah.
When we went on our mission trip. And for me, Guatemala was life-changing for a different reason, because so now I've sorted out myself. I've been liberated. I am now free in Bethel. It's great. God and I can see God in this beautiful new light of how he loves me, and I don't have to work for his love. I'm free to be fully me and know that I'm loved, so that's what Bethel did. It was a great place to be in. But when I went to Guatemala, now this is a place where you are going on what is called a ministry trip, right? So you are now going to have to pray for people, to contest for people. So now we've been a part of gatherings where, we've seen miracles, but here you're the one that has to contest. So, they're actually going to send you out to do these things that you in your head have seen your leaders do. So now comes this moment of fear of, I can't do this. This is terrifying. Like, I am imperfect. I am not worthy of this. And there's a moment of he won't do it through me. You won't do it through me. Send someone else. And because I am so afraid of failing and such a perfectionist, my fear of failing causes me to constantly hide behind someone. So in these moments, I would be like, okay, ask Rohann. He's good at this. Or ask so-and-so, he's good at this. Or ask the third year because they're better than the second and the first year. Just this whole idea. So I was doing that for the entire first set of days at Guatemala, where I was just happy to be a part of the corporate gathering, part of the team that was praying, but not the person that's stepping up. And there was this one moment on my trip where the leader of the trip just didn't give me any heads up. We were ministering to a few men and women and children who were suffering with AIDS. So it was just a community that was sort of set apart because they were just neglected. They lived by themselves in their own community and had no access to anything. So we went out to them, and there were like maybe 40, 50 children. And so this leader goes, okay, I want you to share the love of God to these people. I had no words to sort of like string sentences in this moment. I was just given a mic and I was put on the spot, and I cried because I had no clue what to say. For the first time, I didn't know how to lead a room into encountering God. And so I just went there and I shared a little bit about my encounters with God. And I only said that if he can do it for me, he can do it for you. It was from this place of like, listen, I'm a sinner. I am not worthy of his love, and yet I am receiving it. So it's also for you. So I remember this moment, and I remember that the children came to the altar and wanted to encounter God. And I just started bawling my eyes out in this moment, going, God, you're using someone like me. And I remember post that I had to pray for people. So you asked me, what's the miracle that you've been personally part of? I actually got to pray for somebody whose legs were uneven again. And I got to pray.
In Guatemala?
In Guatemala,
Okay.
yeah. And I got to pray for this person. And this person knew that, their legs were not the same length. But the odds of them coming and asking me that and me witnessing it again, but me being the person that's praying this time and not just witnessing it, for me, that was full circle. Yeah. So I think,
Crazy, man. I just want to ask you and also challenge you at the same time with this question is like, do you still tell people, which you did in this conversation earlier before, but you still tell people and say, hey, I'm not a risk taker. Like, is that something that you identify with?
100%. Yeah.
And yet, how do you, as a Christian, as a believer, as someone that's called to the supernatural, not take risks? Do you feel like associating yourself with not being a risk taker is not right, is not it's not fair, because God wants you to take risks, because
Absolutely.
if you can do everything by yourself, then you don't really need him, right?
100%.
So like, how does that function, or how does that play out in your mind?
Yeah, so again, a very interesting thought process, because I realize a lot of the risk-taking ability and my inability to do so boils down to the fact that I'm sort of making the wrong decision, or, I'm going to jeopardize my family as a consequence of my decision. It stems from the fact that I do want what's best for them and me. And also I fear that I don't know what's best for me. I'm afraid of change. Also because I'm a very content person. I'm content with where I am. I don't actually have enough motivation or need to want my life to change. So I think a lot of that is sort of associated to why I'm unable to take, I'm not able to take risks. But I'll tell you why it's different with God. So I am now in this place where I am so convinced that you can't convince me that somebody is not loved by God.
Yes.
Right? So you actually can't convince me, no matter how bad you may think their lives are, you cannot convince me that God doesn't love them. And because of that alone, that purpose spurs me to take risks for people. So when it comes to ministering and praying for people, or loving people, or things that are sort of God-like, that for me is very easy to do because of the God element of it, the purpose that I see in it. Like, I am 100% convinced God wants people healed, or wants people, free, or wants people to live in joy, or wants people to enjoy life. Like, I'm a believer that he wants people to live in freedom and not chains. So because of these things that are my absolute root belief, I am able to take risks for people. And able to step out of my comfort zones to pray for people and to do things like that. It's just decisions that sort of account for myself. And I don't know, like my life. It's very strange. I can do things for people, but my struggle is when it comes to me.
That is strange.
Yeah. So I think that's why it's very different. I'm afraid when it comes to me and ownership on myself. In these situations, there's no ownership on myself. The ownership's on God. And he never fails.
Right.
So I have no doubt on
So
that.
it isn't a risk.
Yeah, there isn't a risk actually in these elements. Like stepping out in faith, stepping out to pray for somebody, stepping out to love somebody, stepping out to do things for people. When it concerns God or when God moves me, I will take that risk because the ownership's on God. The fear, even though nothing sort of like ownership wise on me, it's just these inherent decisions that I have to make that scare me.
Yeah, but what about making those decisions, trusting that God will catch you, or that God wants you to take a risk maybe, and it's okay to get it wrong because he's going to write a story that will turn it around for good.
Yeah.
Like this is something that you still struggle with and something that you...
Yeah, I 100% struggle.
Do you want to get better at? I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm actually married to Josh, whose greatest strength is faith.
Right.
He has zero scope of thinking through things. He just jumps at things and he goes, God will take care of me.
Yeah.
But my strength is obedience. And obedience usually requires an instruction or a command. See, that's the challenge. The challenge is if God tells me to do something, I will jump at it with everything I've got. The fear that I have is if I have to walk and then hear God, or like you said, trust that he is with you and trust that he will bless what you're doing, or trust that he will take care of you. I'm so bent upon wanting to do what he wants that I want to hear from him before I take the step. That's my challenge. Like Josh will take the step and go, God is with me. So I definitely want to get better at that because I do think that I shy away from almost everything. I am still very happy in a group if I don't have to take lead. I only take lead if nobody else is taking lead. And I have noticed that time and time again, even now, that I will be the loudest in a group if nobody is speaking up. Like I'm happy to bridge the gap because I see purpose in it. Like nobody's doing it, so I'm going to step up. But if there are people to do it, I almost never do it. And I don't want it to be like that. I feel there are moments that God wants to do things through me and I haven't stepped up. So I do really think I want to get better at it.
Yeah.
But it's genuinely a struggle for me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I feel like that what you just said at the ending is so important because I feel like there have been so many moments where I should have spoken up. I should have said something. I should have prayed for the XYZ person. But I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to...
Exactly.
This thing, but I really realized that, it's not about me. I shouldn't care about how I look even if I fail, right? Like God knows better. I remember when I went to Shillong, there was this one girl who had an arm just till her elbow and she had like, whatever, this top part, bicep, tricep and fingers.
Yeah.
And I was like, I really want to pray for her, but I was too scared to fail.
Yeah.
And even till today, I think about it. I'm just like, man, what if I saw that hand grow out,
Yeah. What if you had seen that?
What if I had seen, and I was like, why didn't I take the risk? And I feel like this 1 year has helped me take a lot more risks and I've seen more things not happen than things happen.
Yeah. But
it's really encouraged me to know that it doesn't matter if it's a success or not.
Exactly.
Like if this person gets healed or something happens, like it's not on me. If something doesn't happen, it's not on me also. So that's been super liberating for me.
Exactly.
And
like you said, the ownership's on God.
Yeah. And even in my life, so many times that I want to take a risk for myself, I take it. And I'm just like, I'd like to think I take it at least. Because at the end of the day, if I win, it's not on me. And if I lose, it's not on me also. And I do also battle and struggle with taking ownership and, saying it's my life. I need to make the most of it. But like, I love taking a risk. I've learned to love taking risks.
Yeah, you're good at it actually. If I can think about just watching you as a friend, I think you're really good at it. But one of the interesting things that you said, what if I saw the hand grow?
Yeah.
And I think in this sort of stage of my life, I've always been challenged by God with the flip side. There were moments of my life where I've asked, God, is that you? And God has asked me a question back saying, how do you know it's not me?
Yeah.
And every time I've said, how do I know it's you? He always counter questions that with, how do you know it's not me? And he challenges me with this one thought saying it takes the same faith to believe that it is God that it takes to believe that it's not. And you get to choose which side of the fence that you want to sit on, right? And I remember this thing that you shared was something that the Lord really ministered to me in so many ways, because he said, so what if you don't see the hand grow, right? And very often we're just like, okay, you know what, the person doesn't get healed. But there are moments in my life that because I have stepped up and prayed, two things have happened. The first is, because I have prayed, I have given this person even the thought, firstly, that God can do something. Secondly, that if they do get healed, that it was God. So even if they do get healed, if I don't step up, I'm not even involving God in their life. So firstly, me stepping up is just bringing God into the picture in so many ways. Now, whether that involves a healing or not, that's secondary. But God's entered the picture. And if God enters the picture, God can sort of enter their lives. Their thoughts can comfort them if they're having a tough time. So I feel like me stepping up and praying for them isn't just merely about healing. It gives this person now access to meet this God and to have an encounter. Like, I'll give you an example. So there was this one moment of my life where a friend of mine had just was really madly in love and just got engaged. And her engagement sort of broke off because this guy just absurdly said he's no longer interested in her. And she and I had never spoken before. We're colleagues. And she was in tears publicly at work. And I've never spoken to this girl before, and I don't know anything about her. And she's just crying and everybody's consoling her. And I just didn't want to be somebody that joined the group, but I genuinely felt pain for her, even though I didn't know her. So I know that when she went to the bathroom, I followed her. And I told myself, God, this is between you and I. And there's just her and I in the bathroom. Not a soul is going to know what I'm going to do. But you know how much I want to obey. You're stirring my heart to pray for this girl. And I'm going to act upon it. And so I actually went and I prayed for her. And
non-believer.
Yes.
Okay.
And I just prayed for her and I said, hey, you know what? This is not going to make your situation any better. But here's my prayer for you. That when you are alone and when you are crying, that this God that I believe loves you so much will stoop down and comfort you. And that you will feel his embrace. That when you feel you are all alone, you will know you are not alone. So this is my prayer for you. So I just prayed for comfort for her. And you know what? Her engagement never sort of fell back into place. She never got back with this guy. But she found God. And so very often I think it's really not about the results or the situation. Now, she's 100 times happier now than she was in that moment. And God did work everything for his good. But in that moment, what I was contesting for was not fulfilled. But in the process, it's so much bigger than just that. It's not about an arm growing. But it's my moment to go, I want to introduce you to this God that helps me know I'm never alone. And so when you are feeling like you are going through this alone, I want to introduce you to this God that's actually watching you, listening to you. He is bawling his eyes out when you are crying. And I want to introduce you to this God. So for me, it's just that element of me stepping out to pray for somebody is me just going, God, I want to introduce you to them. And then you take over. I will probably never see this person again. And that gives me courage to pray for people that I may never see again. Just going, fine, it's fine. But they will always remember that Manuela just stopped for a moment to pray and introduce them to God. And I think that's fine. If God gives me that story when I'm in heaven, I would just be thrilled.
That's amazing, man. Yeah. That's so cool. I think I'm just reminded of just last Saturday and my birthday. I really enjoyed it. It was so special. Nothing happened, but it was just still so special in terms of the conversations we had. Even if it was just like poking the surface, it's really special. And I feel like it wouldn't have happened if for the past 4 years we didn't show up every single time making smaller conversations,
Absolutely.
And I think something that I learned from Guatemala this time was that it's not I don't get, like I said, don't get the praise, or I don't bear the weight of the of the loss if it doesn't happen, or if it happens, if the miracle happens or doesn't happen. But I just need to remember that I am someone who's coming to either plant the seed or reap the fruit of this, the reward of someone else's planting of the seed, right? And that's all that I am.
Yeah.
And so as long as I remember that, I never lose. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. And
I'm always winning. I always get to be part of a story. And so there are so many things I prayed for in Guatemala that didn't happen. Yeah. But I know that the next team that goes there, or eventually the team that goes there, is going to see something that I haven't seen. And so that's super exciting, and that for me is super liberating. And so even if I'm taking risks today and I fail, I know that someone that hears my story eventually 10 years from now will take a risk and they benefit from it. On the first try itself, I'll be happy that they did it because someone else planted the seed that they could take the risk itself. And so
absolutely,
that's so encouraging and so liberating like never before. So
and also the kind of God that we serve is one that he's really good. And so you just have this understanding that every little thing that you do, he delights in it, and he will reward you for it. Now, whether that looks like you actually reaping a reward here on earth or not, what I actually mean is that because he's the God who sees everything, everything I do has so much value. It has so much value.
Yeah.
Every conversation that you take. But I really want to applaud you for even the heart that you carry for people. You don't realize that not everybody can do what you did on your birthday. For instance, just have a bunch of randomly absurd people who have nothing in common in a room together. The reason they're there is because they really value you and you value them.
Yeah.
But more importantly, you've always been the person that facilitates space for God to even move. And I think that's really honoring in the way that you love people. I think as much as God did so much, I really want to applaud the life that you have lived, to be consistent with people and friends, to even have them in that room in the first place.
Yeah, man. Thanks, man. I appreciate that a lot. I mean, I like the fact that God is using me. I'm just honored that I'm able to do that. So
in such big ways, you don't realize.
Yeah, it's exciting. I think we've spoken for about 90 minutes now, so it's been a delightful conversation. I'm so glad, and I can't wait to do this again. Yeah, it's a dream of mine.
At 37, is it?
Hopefully before that as well. Hopefully you don't avoid me till then.
I don't intend to.
I'm very curious to see and hear what we talk about the next time.
Yeah, me too.
And reflect on what we did talk about already.
You'll catch me by surprise anyway.
I will. I think I'll probably learn the art of doing that along the way of doing this next few episodes. But we're going to have Josh and you also one day on an episode together. Oh my goodness. And I'm going to be so excited to host that.
We're probably going to say exactly opposite things at every question that is asked. So,
but I'm really looking forward to that because I feel like there's so much from that I've just observed over the past 5-6 years and learned so much. And I can't wait for the world to hear your guys' story. I think it's so special in its own unique way. So different. Not perfect, but so beautiful because y'all are just followers of a God who makes imperfect things perfect. So
absolutely,
that's super exciting. So hope you had fun. Hope you had a good time.
So much fun. Yeah. So much fun. Thank you for even the honor of being here.
Of course.
I get even just your introduction. You've done so much more for me than you think, and I really want. If I would introduce you, I would introduce you exactly like that. Somebody that's played such a role in my life, who asks me such challenging questions, and may never stop doing that. I think it really it causes people to stumble upon so much discovery and what God has actually done. Yeah. So I'm really grateful for you.
Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Let's wrap up. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in and for staying till the end. Yes. I had such an amazing time. Just even though I know this person so well, just to rediscover so many things, and it's just so heartwarming and so beautiful, and just God just keeps rewriting stories that have already been written in different ways. And I hope you guys were blessed by this conversation. I definitely was. Hope you were too. 100%. That was another episode done. Hopefully the episodes going forward are not going to be in this setting anymore. It's going to be in the United States of America.
Let's go.
And so you were the last guest, if that's the case.
If that's the case, but hey, I intend on coming to the US to see
US.
you, so I will see you in a different setting as well.
Awesome, sounds good. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in another episode of Control. Bye.